Hi, this is Dean from SYX66x. This is a quick tutorial showing you how to consider the steps needed to exchange an existing DC1100 or DC1400 controller to one of our SYX replacement controllers. Under no circumstances attempt to make any wiring for modifications or investigations without first removing the power from the controller or control cabinet, as the case may be. The DC1100 has a removable wiring backplate. There's a screw through the front of the controller. This should be removed, and then you can gain access to the wiring on the rear of the product. At this first step, it's worth noting that the cables should be identified. If they're not identified with cable numbering, make sure that you take the moment to put your own identifications on those cables. You're going to be pulling those cables around, you're going to be moving them. Identification tags may fall off, so make sure you're fully happy about the tagging of the cables so that you can be confident that you're going to put the right cable in the right place. The earth stud on the rear of the product will be hosting the screens for the sensors. Undo that. Keep the sensor screens intact. These will be connected to an earthing point once all of the other wiring changes have been made. We'll maintain a connection to the earth cable, which is connected into terminal 16. You're going to have to find a good clamping arrangement to keep those screens to the cable inside terminal 16. Also bond it to the rear of the cabinet as an appropriate location, but they do not connect into the SYX controller at any stage. With regards to the power arrangements, we removed the live power supply terminal 18 on the DC controller and connect that into the live connection of the SYX product. We also then make switch feed connection links into terminals 3, 5, 7 and 9 and 11 from that live power supply. The SYX controller does not provide its own switch feeds. If you have the requirement of providing a hot water time channel from your existing DC1100 or DC1400 controller, you will need to obtain the SYX HWS option relay at the time of purchasing your SYX controller. This is an optional extra. Please be aware that this does not come with the standard SYX controller, so you need it if your controller needs to switch the hot water channel. Because the hot water output also needs a switch feed, you're going to need to wire the live connection also as a switch feed into the option relay shown at the bottom of this image, terminal 18, into the common. We then take the neutral, which was feeding the DC controller, and put it into the neutral of the SYX controller. We can then start to move the switched outputs onto the arrangement of the channels of the SYX controller, starting with the hot water output terminal 15. That will connect into the normally open of the hot water option relay. In order for the hot water option relay to become functional, you also need to maintain a link between terminals 20 and 30 on the SYX controller. This is just a simple wired connection that you can just put between 20 and 30, and that's all you need to do. Boiler number 1 can now be moved from the terminal 10 on the DC controller and connected into terminal 4 on the SYX controller. If you have a second boiler, terminal 14 can be disconnected and connected into terminal 6 on the SYX controller. The pump on terminal 11 can be moved onto terminal 8 of the SYX. Valve open, if you have a VT valve, can be moved from terminal 12 and moved into terminal 10 on the SYX controller. Valve close can be moved from terminal 13 and moved into terminal 12. That completes the mains voltage connections from the DC onto the SYX controller. Now we can concentrate on the sensor connections. The sensors are a 2-core cable in each particular location. So the outside air sensor will come in on terminal 4, and its common connection will connect into either terminals 3 or 7. So disconnect all of the sensor locations, make sure they're identified, and then we can consider which sensor location goes where. So one side of the sensor connection from the outside air sensor, terminal 4, can connect onto terminal 13. The compensated flow sensor can connect onto terminal 14 if you have it. The boiler return sensor can connect from terminal 6 onto terminal 16 on the SYX controller. The boiler flow sensor can connect onto terminal 17 of the SYX controller. Just a comment on sensors and options. If your existing arrangement does not have the sensor, then you do not need to connect it onto the SYX controller. However, we are trying to save energy with this product. If you can enhance the application by adding in sensors to improve the performance and the control of the equipment, specifically boilers, if we can maintain and control the boiler flow output to match the load of the system, then we will save energy. So if we can add a boiler flow sensor in and we can match the demands of the system, then we should take the opportunity to speak to the customer and see if they're prepared to enhance the system. The boiler return sensor on terminal 16 will provide plant frost protection. So again, consider the installation. Don't always be led by what was there originally. Somebody may have missed the opportunity, or may have not seen something, or the building may have changed, so that you need to provide that protection even though it wasn't there originally. Space sensors, if they're available, terminal 1 will be moved onto terminal 31 of the SYX controller, and terminal 2 will move on to terminal 32 of the SYX controller. So the SYX controller will use the average of the two. You should then be left with the sensor commons, and these can be split as required between sensor terminal connection 15 and the ground common connection 33. 15 and 33 are common to each other, and you can mix and match the commons of all the sensors across those two terminals as you see required, or as your cable lengths permit. That completes the wiring connections. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact SYX Sense support or post a query and questions online as you require. Okay. Many thanks for your time. I hope you find it useful. Good luck.